Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Bonkekook here, aka the Lonely Achievement God, continuing our 1000G Achievement Guide / walkthrough for Lawn Mowing Simulator. With the first expert challenge, I do want to just be completely honest here and say that my first recording of this challenge being completed failed. I am re-recording this for the sake of having good footage. Something happened during the other one and it was extremely choppy, so I am re-recording it for your guys and gals' sake. This is going to be one of the first challenges that will test you. You have to be very vigilant not to overload your mower on this level, and because it is, as you can see, a 41-minute level, failing can be very frustrating, so be patient and follow along with what I'm doing. Feel free to watch the video first if you would like. I typically watch videos at 2x speed before I jump into anything, so I recommend doing that if you would like to watch this and see what I do before you jump in yourself, because while there isn't a bunch of worry from fines, even though we only have a 15 pound or euro or whatever the currency is maximum fine, there's not really any flowers to run into, and there aren't very many obstacles to run into, so there's not a lot of danger from that. The key to getting through this challenge, and most of the expert challenges, is learning how to manage your engine overload, and I think that's why this challenge was put first, so that you get used to that before you head into the other challenges. So learning how to manage your engine and not overload it, and especially not run it when it's overloaded, is the key to finishing this. So we're going to jump in and we're going to go through and show you how to complete expert challenge number 1, hopefully with a lot less choppy footage than last time. So as we can see here, we're using a Stega mower. We need a 5 to 6 centimeter cut height, and we are actually going to stay in this view. Back up into the corner and just follow along the outside. For now, you don't have to worry too much about overloading your engine, you're just cutting the outside. But just about every pass from here on out, you're going to want to keep a sharp eye on that speedometer in the bottom right-hand corner that has the engine, the white bar indicating your engine. Because if that white bar goes over the red line, you will take damage. And as you can see, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have an engine condition bar with a red bar inside of it that is very close to the top of the bar. We climbed the fence there. Don't worry about collisions too much. You have a pretty good buffer for collisions on this level. That's not really the thing to watch for. The thing to watch for is making sure that you don't overload your engine and still can keep mowing efficiently. But that red bar is very high up on our engine condition bar there, and if it gets down to the red line, you instantly fail your mission, your challenge here. So that's also true, of course, of the penalties and fines bar down in the bottom left, but we probably will not come close to that on this level. I do recommend choosing, now that we've cut, whatever camera angle you prefer. Excuse me. It's kind of up to personal preference. I'm not a big fan of using first-person mode with the Stega mowers because it's harder to tell where you're mowing with the front protrusion of this, as opposed to many of the Toro mowers have the deck on the front that makes it very easy to tell. It's a little bit more difficult for me with the Stegas. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get maybe half to 60% of the grass on each of our passes. So you can see I'm trying to line up our cut maybe kind of halfway along the mower here. And that should keep us below the overload threshold, but still be mowing enough lawn so that we can finish the challenge in 41 minutes. So corners are going to be an issue, so just don't be afraid to jump off at a corner, and don't ever keep running your mower when it overloads. On the expert challenges, that will basically finish your run. There aren't a whole lot of obstacles on this level. There's a couple of, I'm just going to call them hurdles. No offense to any horse enthusiasts, but I don't know what those on our left there are called. If they have a special name, we're just going to call them hurdles for the sake of being clear. And there may be a shed on this level. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's quite a few of the hurdles there, so and we will worry about the hurdles once we get to them on our path here. We're not going to cut over to get to them right away. But again, just try to keep it around halfway. Keep the grass you haven't cut, that line there, coming in at about halfway of your mower. And again, don't panic if you do overload. Just stop running the mower. It doesn't damage your engine too much to overload. It's when you are continuously running the mower when you overload. So I recommend having audio on, because the mower starts to make a different noise when you're getting close to overloading, and that can help you, train yourself to pull the finger off of the accelerator when you start hearing that noise. But this is kind of all we're going to be doing. As always, if you have questions for me, let me know down below, and I will do my best to answer them. But this challenge is very long, so there's not a whole lot for me to add on here. This will be one of the first challenges where time really becomes an issue, and most of the expert challenges that are time related also will have that struggle, where you're not going to have maybe more than a minute at the end of your challenge, if that, to clean up anything you might have missed. Of course, this level doesn't have a whole lot to miss. The edges are very clean. There's not a whole lot of flower beds or anything like that. All you have is like 6 or 7 hurdles, and there might be a shed in the center. I can't remember exactly what the layout is, but we'll figure it out once we get to it. And also, I do apologize for my voice. It is cracking quite a bit this morning. We're just going to keep running this circle all the way around the outside. Once we get to a hurdle, we will cut around the hurdle when we get to one, but we're not going to go out of our way to go edge one yet. And you're just going to have to learn, because the grass isn't, always the same height in certain areas of a level. You're just going to have to learn where you can continuously drive at 50%, where you may have to back off some, where you might be able to get away with 60%. That's just all things, having 60% of the new grass coming in along your cut. You know, that's just kind of the things you're going to have to keep an eye out for as you go through the expert challenges now. We're over 20% now. And we're probably about 8 minutes of mowing in. So we're actually right about at pace for where we need to be. So as long as we do everything well, we should have enough time. Timing what you're doing is difficult. That first pass that you do doesn't have a lot of grass on it, the edging pass. So it's hard to extrapolate your first couple of percents out towards your full run. So as I said, we're approaching 25% now. The level is a 41-minute time limit. So if we're looking at being on pace, you want to be at about 10 minutes and 15 seconds. 10 minutes and 15 seconds gone by when you hit 25%. And we are at, 9 minutes gone by? So we are making pretty good time. I know that's a little difficult to understand for some, but basically if you're at 25% and you aren't at 31 minutes remaining yet, you're in good shape. And again, don't be afraid to slow down and stop when your engine starts to overload. You do not have any leeway with engine damage. That red bar is very high up on the engine condition meter in that bottom left, so we're going to cut out this hurdle. Don't worry too much about collisions, but be more careful than I was right there. You do have a lot of leeway for fines and collisions, but you don't want to be too reckless because you have quite a few of those hurdles to cut around, so you do want to leave yourself some room to make errors later on. This is a very long challenge, so we're about a third of the way through and we are on an excellent pace now. We're at 33%. We're going to cut this hurdle while we are here. And again, we'd want to be probably at about 13.5 minutes gone to be on pace, basically at a minimum of where you can survive and get this challenge completed. Anything less than that, you're going to have trouble. I do recommend completing the challenge and just getting a feel for how everything works if you're on your first attempt. Obviously, once you do it a couple times, you'll have a good idea of what you're capable of and where your time frames exist. But it's kind of like speedrunning. If you've watched people who speedrun and have the segments timed out. That's kind of what I'm explaining here. Is that if you have, gone through the first third of the game and have only done so in 12 minutes instead of the 13 and a half that you should, then you have an extra minute 30, and you're not that you have an extra minute 30 to waste on later steps if you have a more challenging section later on, like some speedruns do. But that's kind of the gist of what I'm saying. You can extrapolate out how well you're doing, and use that information to estimate if you're going to finish cutting before the time limit is over. And this is where it starts to get very interesting now that we have all the hurdles cut. And as you can see, we cleared the halfway mark, and we are probably 2 minutes ahead of halfway in time, so we actually have a pretty good buffer here. From this point on, your goal is to just manage your overload. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've actually, on the front of the mower, you can see kind of indentations. Like there's a squarish indentation, I believe. And I've been trying to line the grass up with the left side of that square. So more so towards the 40% mark of the mower than the 50. And we've been able to keep our engine condition under control. I have made a couple of dumb mistakes, but you do have to be vigilant. It's very easy, you know, to jump in here and get in a groove and just kind of autopilot and then make a mistake. Because there's not a lot for you to keep an eye on here. It really is just keep driving in a circle. More so than a lot of the challenges. So it's very easy to just, you know, zone out and then overload your engine without paying attention. And you gotta be very vigilant so you don't do that. Looks like there are a couple more hurdles in the center, but I don't think there's a shed, so those last couple hurdles will be, well, literally the last couple hurdles in this challenge. But basically, your engine condition is the challenge of this challenge, is being able to manage your engine workload so you don't overload your engine and take too much damage over a 40-minute trial. So that's what you should use this challenge to practice, and believe me, you're gonna need to know it for all of the other expert challenges. So getting close to being about 2/3 of the way through the grass, but we're still like 3 minutes away from being 2/3 of the way through our time limit, so we're in excellent shape. I say as I overload my engine, but no, that's how I've kept track of my progress, and if I think I have a chance to finish the level when I went through all of my challenges, is I would cut them into segments and see if I did well enough on each segment to finish the challenge in time. That's why I used the speedrun timer analogy, because that's what I think of in my head. I was, plus 1 minute in the first 8 minutes, so I'm in really good shape for the rest of it. And even if I do, screw up something in a second segment, I was still ahead of pace, so I may still be able to finish the challenge. And again, we're not going to worry about those last couple hurdles until we, shrink this lawn close enough to them. As you've noticed, having more than 50% fresh grass under a mower tends to overload it, so trying to make a fresh new path in the grass to get to the hurdle at this point might just wind up ending our run if we're not careful. So we're in excellent shape. We're still not down to a third of the time remaining, so we are doing very well. There's about a third of the time limit at 1340, so you can use that again as another kind of segment to see how you're doing. But if you're keeping up with me, you are in excellent shape. Go ahead and cut this hurdle while we're here. And don't worry about it too much. You only have like 2 more hurdles to cut. So taking that penalty or fine for hitting it once isn't a big deal. Although you can only get away with doing that probably 6 or 7 times. So if you've been a little less cautious than I have on some of the other hurdles, you may have to be a little more cautious on these last couple, but if you're keeping up with my time frame, you have plenty of time to be cautious. So, or you can use the tip I've given you about figuring out your time to figure out on your own if you have the time to be cautious. And you can always pause the game. I'm just not doing so because I'm recording for you. If you need to pause the game to do some math, by all means. Again, at this point, kind of the only thing to worry about for us is overloading our engine. Keep in mind, my first attempt of this challenge, it took me like 6 or 7 goes to complete it. So don't get frustrated if you don't complete it your first try. I actually got to the point where I tried to complete this driving backwards because I had trouble dealing with the fact that I couldn't cut as much grass at a time as I wanted to. I was driving too fast and trying to cut too much grass. And it took me a while to get used to, only cutting 40% of the grass per pass. So don't feel bad. Don't feel frustrated if you're struggling. Like, my first couple of tries were not pretty. Guides makers don't record most of their first tries for a reason. We like to pretend that we're perfect. Although I do have to admit, almost every single one of the challenges now that I re-recorded, I did complete on my first try. But that's obviously after having already done them once. So I was worried that it was gonna require a couple of attempts to complete some of these expert challenges, because I did struggle with quite a few of them on my first go of things. But once you get the strategy down for them and understand what you have to do, they're actually not too difficult. Getting close, ladies and gents. That should have been the last hurdle for us to clear. So now it's just a matter of driving in a circle a lot. And again, not overloading our engine, we are actually getting relatively close to that red dot, or red line there, so you have plenty of time if you're keeping up with my pacing, so take it slow. And we got penalized for turning too sharply. Again, we didn't get hit very hard for it, so it's not really something to worry about too much. Last strip of grass here. There it is, ladies and gents. We're gonna go into first person just to remember which way the exit is, and we have done it. The first expert challenge has been completed. You shouldn't have any problems just jumping up onto the ramp here, but if you're worried about taking a penalty, be sure to back up onto it. You did see the bar drop just a tiny bit when we drove on, but not enough to be worrisome, so just keep that in mind. If you are worried and have a very low threshold for penalties left, backing up should get you on there without any penalties. It just does take a little bit longer. So, and there it is, ladies and gents. Expert challenge number 1 completed. If you have any questions or comments for me, as always, let me know down below. But if not, I will see you guys next time.